the one thing that can make the biggest impact, I believe, is having families that are more collaborative and work better together, because that creates better and more equipped individuals to face the challenges that are in the world today.
So the question is this: how do most agents find the secrets to succeed in today's competitive real estate market, especially when the top agents are keeping those secrets to themselves? That's the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. Hi, I'm Aaron Amuchastegui, and welcome to Real Estate Rockstars.
Real Estate Rockstars. This is Aaron Amuchastegui. I'm excited about today. Today I get to interview one of my good friends. I've traveled all over the world with him. We've done a bunch of fun stuff. Our kids have hung out together, and he is still teaching me to wake surf a little bit at a time out here in Austin. So we're going to interview Mike McCarthy today, but it's not just him and I talking about wake surfing and doing the fun stuff. He is the regional owner of the Greater Pennsylvania region for Keller Williams offices. The numbers he was just shooting off to me are incredible. I bet you guys cannot wait to hear this. You're going to be blown away by that. But Mike, how's it going?
It's going great, buddy. Glad to be here. Glad I knew somebody who could get me on this awesome podcast.
Yeah, glad you had an in. And it was funny. I just left going and seeing our buddy Matt, and he was like, Mike was here just a few minutes ago. So small world in this big giant world and this big giant city. Sometimes we end up in the same places. So Greater Pennsylvania region, Keller Williams. How big is the Greater Pennsylvania region?
So it's geographically, it's the state of Pennsylvania, southern New Jersey, and then the state of Delaware. And numbers wise, the size, we consistently rank in the top either 2 to 5 largest regions, depending on which metric you're looking at for all of Keller Williams. Last year in 2020, we did over 20 billion in sales, and that was almost 70,000 home sales. So lots of business, 47 offices, and over 10,000 agents that we get the pleasure to serve and work with.
Wow. How long ago did you get involved in real estate?
So I am a classic SOB, which is a son of a broker, which I think I grew up in the business. I was putting American flags in lawns with business cards on them on 4th of July morning throughout my childhood, was filing envelopes, sitting at front desks. In college, I worked at a Keller Williams office at the front desk. When I got out of college, I got my real estate license. And my father had just purchased the Greater Pennsylvania region territory rights. And he had been starting to travel out to Pennsylvania to meet with top real estate agents and try to convince them that Keller Williams was the next wave of the future and that they should hop on board. And so I started with him as his assistant, mapping out territories and cold calling top agents. And we would go out to Pennsylvania together and stay for 2 weeks at a time. And we would just meet agents all day long. And I would watch him do his sales pitch. And then once we would get somebody who was interested in opening up a franchise, we'd send them down to Austin, where they would meet Mark Willis, Mo Anderson, Gary Keller, and they would learn the processes of how to launch a franchise. And they would come back and we would hold their hand through the process of launching a real estate office. So I did that with my dad for a couple of years. And then I thought I was smarter than I actually was at the time. So we butted heads a lot. And he said, you know what, you think you're so smart, then why don't you go ahead and do all the work? Because it seems like you got a good handle on this. So he still was my mentor and he guided me, but he kind of turned over the keys, at a very young age. This is probably 2003. So I'm in my mid 20s and I'm now the regional director for a budding real estate company. And I think we probably had 9-10 offices when I officially became the regional director. And my first year I sold 10 franchises and just kept getting after it and launching franchise after franchise. So it was me, my dad, and our key employee who's now worked with us for over 30 years, Paula Haft. And that team has now grown to 3 executives, John Clyde, Michelle McBride, and Paula. And then we also have a technology director, a director of growth. We've got a marketing person, and then also a head admin or operations manager. So we got a team of like 7-8 people now. And they've really freed me up to do a lot of other awesome stuff in life. And I'm really grateful for the ability to build a team and also just to build, an organization like Keller Williams that has such deep values and such great beliefs in how they show up and do business. I mean, it's a company of integrity. The values are God, family, and then business in that order. And I got to really watch Gary Keller, who is a real estate genius, build this company and build the team around him to build this company as a young entrepreneur. And what greater lesson could I have asked for than that? I mean, I got to be on the ground floor on the very first, opening day of something that now is the largest real estate company in the world. And we continue to grow. There is other competition out there, but we have not slowed our growth at all, despite the changes in the market and the competition. So it's just been an amazing ride, and I'm so grateful for that journey.
Yeah, what a fun ride. I can't wait to talk about the stuff that you're doing now. I don't need to stay in some of that topic for just a couple minutes. And we've had John Clyde on the podcast. That was a really fun interview, because he's one of the guys that you just mentioned as, your guys near the top of that. And he was a police officer, right? And he talked about some of the pros and cons of, when they were giving him a hard time for also being an agent, and he showed him one of the checks that he got, and it didn't make it better. It almost made it worse. He almost got forced out after that because it wasn't people being happy for him. It was a complicated story, but such a great interview we got to have with John. You said you guys were like flying out to Pennsylvania. Where were you living at the time when you decided to go open up there?
So I was just living in a small apartment in Denver, Colorado. And my dad also and mom lived in Colorado. So we would fly out there for 2 weeks at a time and stay in a hotel. And I eventually, after about a year of that, just decided to move to Philadelphia because I got tired of sharing a hotel room with my dad for 2 weeks at a time. I love him to death, but my wake up call every single morning was dial-up internet connecting at 5 a.m. So if you remember that, if you're old enough to remember what it sounds like,
and the beeping and
it's worse than an alarm, put it that way. So decided to just make the commitment and move my entire life out to Philadelphia. I'm glad I did. Not only did I have a lot of success in business because of that move, I also met my wife, who we've been married now for 15 years, and we have 2 beautiful children. So really just was an awesome move to make to get out there and be on the ground full time so that it wasn't just 2 weeks at a time. Then I could work, week after week, day after day on building that region.
It's very cool that you and your dad, a lot of people are like, wow, right. Being in at a company at the ground floor, there's a big opportunity for people to say, oh, right place, right time, or like being a part of something, never knowing. But it wasn't like, it wasn't something that fell into your dad's lap or your lap. He was like, I love the story about how when I did my like regrowth after losing it all in 2013, 2014, I ended up flying back and forth to this random little town in Texas. And I was a West Coast guy all the way. And I was never supposed to end up in Texas. But like sometimes that enormous effort helps you be on the ground floor of something big. Or my enormous effort at that time was I was getting back into an industry that there was no competition in these little cities. And there was tons of competition on the West Coast. So the part of the story of it wasn't like you guys were signing up to get it in Denver. It was like, hey, this is an opportunity. What's available? Like, wow, should we go to Pennsylvania? Right? Like, what's this opportunity there? Will it work out there? Let's go fly out and interview people. I haven't heard or understood that part of your story, but I think that's a special thing for agents and entrepreneurs to listen to when it comes to like taking risk in some of these big ideas and like making a big change. There's heavy risk and heavy reward in anything. Like you moving out to Philadelphia, it could have just as easily crashed and burned, but getting rewarded for betting on yourself and taking that effort. That is a really cool part of that story. I didn't remember that you guys were living somewhere else back when that all started. And it was kind of like, yeah, that's a bit like, what if we go start a business out there? And there's people listening right now that are thinking about going and opening a real estate office in just one town over or a zip code over, or maybe they should specialize on this one zip code and have that be the only place they do business in because there aren't very many people down there. And if you're thinking about taking one of those big chances, I think this is a fun story to show that like you never know what the outcome could be on some fresh new idea, especially the ones that take a little bit of work to go be first in. If someone's going to work with family or been working with family, what advice would you give them?
Oh man, that's a big can of worms to open, but I'll try to be quick about it and effective here. But, number one is, family comes first. So if at any point the relationship is being damaged by being in business with family, then the business has to stop and the family part has to continue. And the beautiful part about my father and I is that if you would have asked me as a teenager of all the things that I might do, last on the list would have been work with my dad in any way, shape, or form. We just didn't get along. I was a know-it-all teenager. He was a very forceful and dominant leader, and we both butted heads in that way. But what happened was that we gained a lot of respect for each other when we started working together, because he could see the talents that I had that he didn't have. We could see the talents that we both shared. And I could see the leadership and experience that he had that I didn't have. And so this new respect was born from hustling together and really pushing through. And now when we get together, there's a lot of celebrating that gets to happen because we did it. And his dream, by the way, was to own a business someday with his son or sons. I'm an only child, so he had one shot at it here. Man. And so for him, it was a beautiful thing that his dream came true and we crushed it. And, now we're business partners for life. I mean, I've taken over and bought him out of the businesses, but, we still are connected and we still do business together. Even to this day, we invest together. We look at deals together. And so, I think if you can get to that place where you're actually successful, it can be a real bonding experience. But you got to put family first. It doesn't always work out that way.
Real Estate Rockstars, this is Aaron Amuchastegui for a quick commercial break. So during 2020 and 2021, the real estate market completely changed. There's so much competition in the market, so many people trying to buy and sell houses, but there's hardly any supply, hardly any product, hardly anyone willing to list their homes. It's time for every agent out there to become a hybrid agent investor, to be able to reach out directly to homeowners to try to get them to sell or list their house. We've got a new website. Go to leadpropeller.com and you can set up your own investor buyer website in just minutes. You'll set up your own URL, set up phone numbers, help go through to leads, help reach out to people that aren't listing their property currently, and have them fill out a form that says, hey, I want to sell my house. And then as an agent, you can go through and make them a hybrid offer. You can tell them, hey, I think your house would sell for $220,000 on MLS, but I can either write you a $180,000 cash offer right now, or I can help you fix it up and you'll list it for $220,000 on MLS. These are buyers that are looking for quick cash offers. Tens of thousands are submitting these forms every single day, and they're skipping the listing process. But so many of you guys out there are such good agents. It's a great opportunity to get that lead and help them maximize sales price for their home. So again, go to leadpropeller.com and think about signing up for your own investor site so buyers will start reaching out to you, asking you to make an offer on their home. Yeah, it's not easy to work with family. I remember working with my dad. We butted heads way too much, especially as I was younger. And then, and then later you get to see how much of that value remember being such a young kid being like, why don't you do it like this, Dad? Why don't you do it like this instead? I think you should do it like this instead. And in his mind, he's knowing he's already tried that 15 times. Right. And then I keep going back and keep pushing, thinking that there's so much new going on in the world, but not necessarily businesses. The way to run business doesn't always change. Business changed a lot. 2020, 2021. What were you guys telling your agents like second quarter of 2020, to lead? Cause I know everybody had a really crappy month or two, and then all of a sudden saw these big changes. What do you attribute your success in that time? What were you telling your agents? What were you telling your team to get through the hard time?
Well, because of my experience with other businesses, like GoBundance and being a facilitator of the exchange, which is a way to bring teams and groups together. Our team was already ahead of the game with being on Zoom, leading virtual events. So we were very quickly able to pivot to the virtual world pretty seamlessly. And our message to our agents really was that we love you. We're here for you. We're going to do whatever it takes to help get you through this. And we're going to provide training that is for the market of the moment, that's going to help you to keep making the money you need to make. And we had a tough go at it. If you remember, Pennsylvania declared real estate not a crucial business, right? And so it was closed down. It was non-essential, which is, insane. We don't have to get into that. But when people need a place to shelter, and the leadership in Pennsylvania is saying, well, that's not an essential business. It was hard for our agents in our offices. And what they needed was community. And that's something that we were experts at building, was a community that could support one another through anything that came up. And so I think we were uniquely positioned, not only as Keller Williams, but my team specifically. We were ready for something like this, and we moved into action. We rallied around each other and our agents in our offices. And, the long story short is 2020 ended up being, our best year in the history of the region. And we had record performance, and we were shut down for a few months. So it was at first very scary. And then it was, as we worked through it together, it was a triumphant moment to get to the end of 2020 and look back and go, yeah, as a team, we bonded together and we did this, and we continue to do that for our agents. I mean, community is at the center of everything that Keller Williams does and stands for. It's about being in business with the right people. And so when bad stuff happens, you want to be on the team with the right people.
Yeah. So what about now? So right now we're in this, cranking market. The market's pretty awesome. But competition is tough. So the people that are doing great are doing even better. The people that are struggling, when you have tens of thousands of agents, you have agents on every end of the spectrum. And so what are you telling your agents to do right now? What guidance are you giving them to succeed right now?
I mean, I think it's that they've got to be willing to change. That's the number one thing, is they have to learn new skills, new ways of doing business. They've got to get enabled by technology. And I think, now more than ever, they need to be still, just like I shared at the end of 2020, they still have to have the right team around them. And whether they're an individual agent or they have a team, they need that community that is supporting them. And I think, the biggest thing for agents right now is understanding, this is not the market we were in 2 years ago. You need a whole different set of skills and tactics. And it is starting to slow a little bit in some markets. But for a while there, the listing agents held all the cards, and we're getting offers, that were hundreds of thousands of dollars over asking, with, 30, 40 offers. And so you've got to be able to manage the market of the moment. And so we've taught to that, and we've made sure that our training programs that are delivered mainly virtually for right now, we're able to give them the skills that they need to make as much money and serve their clients at the highest level that they can in this moment, because the game has changed so dramatically in just, 2 years.
I really love that saying, like, manage the market of the moment. Hey, Real Estate Rockstars, this is Elrod, and I'm interrupting myself to bring you this commercial break from one of our sponsors. And I know you guys would much rather listen to the content and not the ads and not the sponsors, but this is one that I'm actually super, super excited with. So many of the realtors that we interview on the show, they talk about how much systems are important and how much follow-up is important. And I'm really, really excited about our new sponsor. There's somebody I've been looking at for a long time. And when they reached out to me, I said, yes, we have to be able to do this deal. So that sponsor is Follow Up Boss. On an interview last week with agent Mark McGuire, I asked him what his favorite software and what his favorite system was. And he said it was Follow Up Boss. And then he went on for another 3 or 4 minutes to talk about why Follow Up Boss was the best CRM he uses. So there's a lot of superstars out there that use Follow Up Boss. Some of the stats they gave me: Robert Slack, 1.5 billion team in Florida, #1 in the US. He uses Follow Up Boss to get a 400% ROI on his massive paid lead spend. Deborah Beagle, co-owner of the Ashton Group in Nashville, uses Follow Up Boss to guarantee that agents who join her team get 2 homes under contract in the first 90 days. That's a big guarantee for new agents. Barry Jenkins of Your Friends in Real Estate uses Follow Up Boss to automate everything so his team can produce $200 million on 25-hour work weeks. All right, so here's an offer. You guys are going to get this special for being Real Estate Rockstars listeners. Now, I've used Follow Up Boss. We've actually used it in our non-real estate businesses as well, because it's so good at being able to set timers, set automatic texting and emailing, and what do you know? Best name ever, Follow Up. So here's what we got. For Real Estate Rockstars listeners, you get a 30-day free trial. That's normally 14 days. So in order to get this, you go followupboss.com/rockstars. So again, followupboss.com, just like it sounds, /rockstars. Go there, get your 30-day free trial, and check it out. Especially if you aren't using any systems or any CRMs yet, this will be a great one for you to start with. All right, everybody, thanks again. Now back to our show. It's really easy. I've been through a few cycles of ups and downs of where I've seen people in my life, struggle and do well, right? Like even .com before it had anything to do with real estate. I know a lot of people that had gone to school for programming, like became software engineers, did really good in 1999 and 2000. And then by 2001, nothing broke in Y2K. There was like this bubble bursting in that market. And so many people that were in software and like software engineering, they wouldn't go back to work. And because essentially wages dropped to like a third of what they were supposed to be. And I saw a lot of them getting really hung up on the time of going, I just wish it was the way that it used to be. Right. And we get hung up in life saying, I wish it was the way it used to be with, like, I could be saying right now, man, I wish I was still able to buy foreclosures right now. Right. Or, we can look so much at the past, but being able to look at when these big changes happen. I think part of adapting and part of being okay is if you're focusing on how do we manage the market of the moment, knowing that it might go back to something different. But I think what we know for sure is eventually it shifts into something else, whether it looks more similar to it did 3 years ago or more similar to something we've never seen before. Stuff always changes. It doesn't always go back to the way that it was before. So managing the market of today can help any of you out there being okay with whatever is going on. We did, one of our companies sells foreclosure data services, and we did a big team retreat last week on Thursday. And I said, this is like, we are now in the new normal, right? Like it's the last 18 months. Like we're not going to see much of a change for the next 12, 14, 16 months, even with foreclosures coming back, even with all these like different laws changing, we aren't going to see much volume changes. So we need to make the best of what we've got now. We need to build the business with what we have today. And I think that's a big difference between winners and losers. You and I met first at a GoBundance event at your house in Philadelphia. So I had first gone to GoBundance. My first event was 3 or 4 months before that. And I'd gone as a guest. I went to that event and I was thinking, I can't believe I'm paying to go hang out to people. I didn't know what a mastermind was. I had just kind of rebuilt my business, and I was picturing like a Tony Robbins walking on fire type things. I was super nervous going to that thing. I went to that. And at the time I said, this was really cool. I learned so much, changed my life, but I'm not going to become a member because I'm not going to need it. And I went home, and a few months later, I was thinking I missed everybody. I felt like super lonely. Like, okay, cool. I applied those things that I learned at that first GoBundance thing. So 3 months later, I remember texting you because, and I think I probably got an automatic text from you or something that was about it. And I replied back and I said, you know what? I want to join this thing. I feel like I'm missing out. I feel like I'm missing something. I feel like my life was changed and I had that momentum. And you said, cool. And there's actually an event at my house in 3 weeks. I'm trying this new thing out in Philadelphia called Fanbundance. We've interviewed several guys on the podcast before that have been part of the GoBundance mastermind that for many years you were the CEO of and helped driving growth. And that first Fanbundance event at your house, everybody just talk about that a little bit. Like, tell everybody about that experience. What did you have in mind? What was it? Anything you want to share?
Yeah, thanks. Well, it's definitely was a big leap. So because I had great partners like John Clyde and Michelle McBride in place, I had a little more free time than I was used to on my hands. And so in 2015, I raised my hand to become the CEO of GoBundance. And I remember the recruiting call, as they would say it was, where you and I were talking and we were deciding if it was going to be right for you to become a member or not. And, the thing that I realized when I decided to become the CEO and drive GoBundance was that I could have used that time to spend with my family. And I was really giving up the freedom I had just earned that I would have poured into my family with. I had given it all up to be the CEO of GoBundance. And so when I realized that, I made a decision that what I would do is create a division of GoBundance that was there specifically to serve the families of our members. And so that way my family could come along for the journey and experience their version of GoBundance. And it was a radical idea. We had no idea how to do it. And we had the first event in my backyard in Pennsylvania, and we had 13 families there. And that was the beginning of us over the next 3 to 4 years, leading about 20 different events that ranged from, 8 families going to Finland to see the Northern Lights, which you were part of. We've gone to Greece with families. We've done larger events with 20, 25 families at our winter and summer retreats. But the complexity of it is pretty mind-boggling because you're actually running like 3 or 4 events simultaneously so that you can serve the husbands, serve the wives, have things that are helpful to them in their roles and what they're working on. But also you have every age range of kids, which we had the youngest kids that really just needed advanced babysitting. And then we had our kids that were 5 to 12 that really meshed well together and they had their own programs. And then we had the teenagers that also needed their own event. And then we would bring them all back together and we would lead an event that was designed for the whole family to participate in all at once. And it eventually started to really click and really work at a high level. Right as this was all emerging, we wrote a book with Elrod called The Miracle Morning for Parents and Families, which we're about to release a second edition of that book October 25th. And we're going to release along with it a playbook, which is a collection of exercises that is everything we learned throughout all 20 or 20 plus events that we ran for Fanbundance that help families to connect, define their values, hold family meetings, set goals together. In our family, we have a currency called McCarthy stars that the kids can earn and they can trade it in for screen time or cash. And so there's all these little things that we learned throughout our time leading Fambundance. But the biggest lesson for me personally throughout all of that wasn't just, hey, we need to be leaders in our homes and we need to bring some of the things that work for teams and masterminds and use them within the family, because that was mind blowing. But for me, it was the realization that there are tons of entrepreneurs who are out there building their legacy, and they're doing it for their family without their family. And I think that it can be a crucial mistake, because they build something for them, but the kids don't actually learn the values or get to understand the type of character that it takes to be a leader of something like that. And so then they turn around and someday, if they've done a great job and they've built this legacy, they might be handing it off to kids who are not equipped to carry that legacy forward. And so I really realized that Fambundance and the work we're doing with the Miracle Morning, it's really all about instilling the types of values and even personal development and the types of character and leadership traits that will help the next generation. And this is before the world kind of fell apart too. And so now more than ever, I think families have to be high functioning teams. They need to be the place you go for support and for celebration of success. And also when you face challenges, you've got to have that home team in the right space. And I think that's really what we've tried to do with Fambundance and with writing these books, is make sure that people are putting family first. And, it's not a coincidence that I grew up in the Keller Williams world, where literally our stated values are God, family, then business, which I mentioned earlier. But, we have an entire company that's built around these concepts. And now it's such an honor to be able to actually go out in the world and deliver materials and events and things that actually help entrepreneurs to become better leaders in their household.
Real Estate Rockstars, before this next commercial break, I just want to say thank you for listening to the podcast, and thank you for listening to the commercials that we put in here. This is how we're able to push the podcast to you. This is how we can make sure that we publish so much content and keep providing value. So here we go from one of our sponsors, Rent Ready. All right, guys, we got to be honest here. You've heard so many of the Rent Ready ads over the past really 9 to 12 months, as they've been one of our flagship sponsors for so much of the stuff that we're doing. Rent Ready is a property management software, and we've told you about this, truly working to elevate the entire renting experience for landlords and tenants. But this time, this isn't just a boring old podcast ad. I'm not sure how many episodes we're going to run this on, but it's not just to help you maintain and screen tenants and run leases. This podcast ad is actually a secret. So this month, Rent Ready is releasing a game-changing feature that will help you save a whole lot of time and headache when it comes to crunching numbers on your rentals. I don't even know what it is yet. They wanted me to start doing this and said, so while I can't share it yet, make sure that you stay tuned to the Rockstars podcast for that surprise reveal, because we'll have it on good authority that Rent Ready will be letting our listeners know that once top secret feature is ready. So in the meantime, if you're looking to get started on Rent Ready's powerhouse of a platform, I use it for a lot of my stuff. Get signed up, save 50% off on any Rent Ready plan using our special code Rockstar50. So that's 50% off any Rent Ready plan when you sign up using our code Rockstar50 at rentready.com. It's RENTREDI.com using the code Rockstar50 for 50% off any of them. And again, listeners, I got to say, thank you for listening to our sponsor ads. And if you have any interest at all in trying, any property management software, we appreciate it when you go check out our sponsors, especially the ones where I'm telling you about it myself.
So that's what we've been up to with Fambundance and the Miracle Morning. It's been an amazing journey. And Aaron, you've been a huge supporter of everything that we've done. I mean, you've been probably on 19 of the 20 events that we've done with your family. And I've grown to love your family the same way I love my own family. Like, our kids are growing up together. They're doing life together. And that's another awesome benefit, is they're building their network that you discovered, kind of later on in life. Yep. And you felt lonely and you needed that. Well, we're equipping our children with a network that, spans across the US and the globe at ages 8, 10, 12, which is amazing. It's really cool to think about where they'll be when they're 18, 19, 20. But I mean, your daughter and what she's doing, with her business is a sneak peek into what we're going to get to experience with many of our kids who are just going to go crush it in business. And I can't wait to watch that all unfold.
Yeah. This is a big part of why I wanted to get you on the podcast, to be able to talk about this, because there is plenty of real estate advice you're going to be able to give to people. And there's going to be plenty of people that are going to reach out to you asking for that advice after being on here. But one of the big things that really helped me succeed as a CEO, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, was when the family became on board with it too. When it became like a team effort where as a family, we were celebrating the wins. It wasn't just me celebrating. Remember, like early on in some of my entrepreneurial journey, like when I would buy a house, I'd buy a house at auction after weeks and weeks of working, and that house was going to pay our bills for the next 2 months. Right. And that got to be these celebrations. I'd walk in, I'm like, I bought a house, and my kids would start screaming and we'd all start jumping up and down, celebrating it together. And the wins got to become bigger and bigger. But the better we are as a family unit, whether it's in any of our relationships, right? Family, friends, kids, when our personal relationships flourish, that helps charge us up to build these other big businesses. And then we also talk about, like, why do we want to be successful? Why do we want to have big businesses? Why do we want to change the world? My answer is always legacy. It's like people are like, why more? Why do you want to buy more houses? Why do you want to build more businesses? Why do you want to make more money? Because more money leads to more legacy. And that legacy could be for my kids, but it could also be for change, or it could be for different, things out there that are important to me, different causes that are out there. So legacy, I think there's nothing more important than the family stuff. That first Fan Abundance was at Mike's house out in Philadelphia. The second one was at my house out on the West Coast. It's really funny. I'm going to share a couple of quick stories. I just jump along with Mike's, but one of the Fan Abundance events up in Canada, we taught the kids how to sell stuff, like how to be sales agents. And it was, selling essentially the merch from the event. And Mike came in and taught them about a target rich environment and what that was like if you had people that should be easy to sell to. We're going over all these tips about sales and how to sell things and products. And it was and then getting to see all the kids take action and treat that like a job. They had a profit share on the sales, and they learned so much. And all of those kids like earning this check, and each of them made like $120 or something, like out of a dozen kids. And that was a big deal. They were like, whoa, that was entrepreneurship. It like felt like a job, but they got to succeed with us. We had to teach about lowering prices on the last day on like a fire sale. But that really started changing a lot of these other personas of where my wife and our kids got to start speaking the same language as us. So we got to start having these conversations together about starting businesses, about how to do it. And now, my oldest daughter, Maddie, I think a lot of you guys have seen. So my wife, Kalina, and I have a book. Kalina loves that part. Part of that has been guiding Maddie. Maddie has now started a whole bunch of different businesses. And her most recent online business, like, she made a lot of money last month, Mike, and she has done it 100% by herself. She's now reinvesting her money in other equipment, and she sells custom made stickers and custom made shirts and custom made tote bags, and we're going over profit and loss statements. And last week I was showing her how to balance her checking account, because she thought she was going to have a certain amount in there and she was off by about $18, and she was trying to find it. But that's all part of us investing early. By the time she's 18, she'll never have to have a job working for anybody, because she'll be making more money in this little business. By then she might have someone else running it. Who knows? But we got to teach them about entrepreneurship. And
remember when the kids, when we first did that first store, and they realized that they had to actually pay for their inventory. Like, there was a cost of sales like that. I'll never forget the looks on their faces when they're like, wait, we don't get to just keep all of this money that we,
right. You sell a backpack for $100. Like, there's
like, I get $100. What the heck?
Yeah. Those are big things. And it's funny. And it starts those conversations with kids when they start going into restaurants and thinking about how much the food costs to make. Right. Or they start like looking at the way the world works. But yes, some of those moments were the first times that they saw, like, oh, there's actually a reason that these prices come in like that. So many life-changing things with that. Did Kalina do like an excerpt in your book or an intro in your book?
Well, in the second edition of the book, we interviewed the two of you. We gave you questions, so maybe you just got credit for Kalina's answers. But you're both in there. We won't tell anyone, other than all of your listeners.
Other than 200,000 people that just heard it. So your Miracle Morning book. So Miracle Morning for Parents and Families. It has been a life-changing experience. Kalina talks about it a lot in her book. In the 5-Hour School Week, we talk about the Miracle Morning. We talk about you and your wife. We talk about the what do you call the Charms? Yeah, yep. Charms is your program. Both you and I are big fans of Hal Elrod, now friends of Hal Elrod. And so he was the writer of the Miracle Morning. I've shared how that book changed my story. And I think this version for families and kids is pretty incredible. The last story I want to share out there is there was a time when all of us were living in different places all over the US and all over the world. And we got so excited about building and growing our families alongside our businesses. Remember, all you listeners, you guys are all entrepreneurs. We got so excited about building this up as our families. Now we all live in Austin, Texas now. There was this kind of dream early on, and nobody was saying it out loud, but we were just all hanging out more and more. But it was like at different places around the US or around the world as we were going on these events. And it's really just funny that so many of us that were there around the beginning are all living a few blocks away from each other as we continue living this life together. What do you think? So your book, what's somebody going to get out of it if they're reading it? What is your big thing that you're teaching in there? And what's share like a big aha or something from the book as you were going through it?
Hey, Real Estate Rockstars listeners, this is a commercial break, but this is a quick commercial break for you guys to see, have any of you ever wanted to host your own podcast? Many of you guys thought about launching a podcast, but it seemed overwhelming, didn't quite know what to do. Something that we're thinking about launching right now, or something that we're starting to launch right now, I don't know how many people we're going to help with, is we want to find listeners like you that want to launch their own podcast. It seemed a little bit overwhelming on what to do next. And we're going to start a service where we're going to help you guys figure out how to schedule your podcast, how to do the interviews. Our back-end team will do everything that we do for the Real Estate Rockstars podcast. We will edit the show for you. We will publish it. We will help you with your social media and your images to really grow it. So I think our plan right now is, 3 or 4 podcasts a month, for up to 3 or 4 podcasts a month. The cost will be between $500 and $1,000 a month to help you guys publish and launch your own podcast. So if that's something you're interested in, be sure to reach out to us. Go find me on Instagram, send me a message on there. It's at Aaron Amuchastegui. All right, back to the podcast.
Yeah, well, I mean, you mentioned the charms, which are the practice of the Miracle Morning designed for the kids. And so it teaches how to create that practice as a family and allow your kids to really view it as playtime, where they're also personally developing who they are. And so the charms is an acronym that stands for creativity, health, affirmations, reading, meditation, and service. And so those are 6 practices that our kids do every day. It doesn't always happen in the morning. They just have to do it at some point during the day because they've got to get off to school. And sometimes sleep is an important factor for their health and their brain power. So, the first time we wrote the book, the first version of it, Lindsay likes to say that was more like the theory of who we should be as parents. Like this is the theory of like, if we were going to be great parents, here's what we would do. The second edition of the book is, okay, we've been doing this for 5 years now. Here's what we know works, and here's how you can actually implement these practices into your family Miracle Morning. The workbook, or as we call it, the playbook, is a companion guide to the second edition of the book. And that one is much more focused around other rituals, traditions, and systems that you can implement with your family. And these are exercises that are to be done together as a family, where there isn't really a leader. Everybody gets to be a leader. Everybody's voice matters. And you sit down and you develop things like, what's our bedtime ritual? What's our morning ritual? What's our family values, and how do we define them, live them, and celebrate them? How do we reward our kids for the things they do around the home, and what does allowance look like? And how do you develop a system that is designed with the whole family doing it together? And you and I have both been through John Berghoff's exchange training, which is based in appreciative inquiry, which is really about they're not being an effective way to be the leader of an organization that knows it all, has the vision, carries the vision forward to the team, and then they run with it. It's really all about co-creating the vision, the goals, the values, the systems that will be used within any company or organization. And we've taken those principles and applied them to these exercises that you can sit down and do with your family. And people, including children, they own things that they help create. And so part of the power of these exercises is being able to bring the kids into the decision-making process of, what's our family all about? What are we all about? How do we behave? What are our values? What are the goals that we want to achieve, both individually and as a family? And our family, everyone individually has to be working on a big goal, two big goals. One is their hard goal and one is their fun goal. And so those are usually 6 months or a year, big goals that they're always focused in on. And then we have, within the 6 different pillars of GoBundance, but you can choose whatever categories are important to your family. We have a handful of other goals that we've set as a family. Like, how many times are we going to make it to church, this year? How many times are we going to have a family meeting this year? How many times will we exercise as a family? How many times will we meditate? What type of charitable giving will we do as a family? And so this playbook really becomes like an operating system for how you can take the most effective ways to lead a team and bring those home to the family, where you can help to be a better facilitator or leader in your family. And I think a lot of leaders and entrepreneurs, they sort of shy away from bringing their leadership skills home. And it's often because they're using that old approach of command and control, whereas appreciative inquiry is, and the exchange method is much more collaborative. And there isn't necessarily one leader with all the answers. The answer comes from the wisdom of the group. And so these exercises, we believe, are the way that you really structure a legacy that will last and prepare your children to understand not only how to lead, how to collaborate, how to have effective meetings, but also how to go out and achieve goals and live values that help lead you and your family to the success that they all deserve. So it's an exciting thing. We're super pumped. Lindsay and I actually just got the formatted version of the playbook yesterday, a PDF of it, and we were looking through it, and it's just a beautiful creation of 5 years worth of us trying to be the most purposeful family that we could be, and taking the best of what I've ever learned about teams and businesses and applying it to our family and many other families, your family being one of them. So it's just something that we're proud to bring to the world. And I feel like it's my personal mission to take a stand for families right now. I think that the world is hurting. And I think that the one thing that can make the biggest impact, I believe, is having families that are more collaborative and work better together, because that creates better and more equipped individuals to face the challenges that are in the world today. So we're excited about it. And this has become my life's mission and work, is to deliver this message to as many families as we possibly can.
Yeah. This has been great, Mike. We talked about all sorts of different stuff today. I really liked the idea of kind of at the beginning of, as we go back to kind of those real estate concepts, your dad took a risk at like, what would it be like to go like start a company, start a new business, 3 states away? Could we have that opportunity? Because maybe I'm too late for the opportunity in Colorado, but maybe I'm not too late for the opportunity over here. Is that something that I should go do? And taking that risk that turned into something so cool. The tips that you gave us about getting to work with your dad, right? Like at the beginning, we're actually talking about working with family and how that worked. The interaction beginning of 2020 of telling all of your team members, essentially you were there for them. What they really needed was community more than anything else. When things get rough, people need community. And then even now telling everybody the way to succeed in real estate is succeeding in today's market, in the market of the moment, doing your best to represent your clients in the market of the moment. And that's given you the ability to take this whole masterminding thing. So we've talked about business masterminds all the time. That really helped both you and I drive our businesses to the next level. And now you took it to go apply with families. It's turned my daughter into a crazy entrepreneur that's been so much fun. We've got to do a lot of those different experiences. And you and your wife's book, I think it is going to make that big transition for all of our listeners out there. Again, you guys you're entrepreneurs and you're setting your own goals. And when you set your goals with another friend, you're going to have a better chance of achieving it. If you have a family, if you set your goals with your spouse, with your kids, you're going to have a better chance of achieving it. We're doing some of these exercises over the past several years. Our kids shared goals with us that we never knew they had, right? One was really simple, like fly in a hot air balloon. We had no idea that was so important. Another one was, I'd really like to go see the Northern Lights in one of those glass igloo things. And that's what led to the next year of, as a group, going, hey, can we actually go do that? And that started in a little mastermind, asking the kids, what do you want? What's our family about? That sort of thing. So I think these tips are going to help you grow your business further. I think they're going to help you grow your relationships further and your families and your friendships and get to create that legacy. Mike, people are going to want to figure out how to reach out to you to learn more about it, how to buy your book, how to get through that process. Or they want to learn more about what it's like to run a region or any other tips. It's the best way people can get a hold of you.
So they could email me directly at mikemccarthy@me.com. So me.com. I also have a website, gomikemccarthy.com, that shares a little bit about the facilitation and speaking and training that I do. One of my goals right now is to speak and bring this message to as many entrepreneurs as possible. So if anybody's interested in having me come speak at their real estate office or at a convention, I would love to bring the message of putting family first to those groups. Also, the book comes out along with the playbook, the companion to the book. They both come out together on October 25th. You can find those on Amazon. And my wife also runs a website called gratefulparent.com, which she puts tons of parenting resources, and she blogs and does some other things, just sharing the resources and the things that we discover that work for us as a family. So those are all the ways that people can find us. We hope that if you buy the book or the playbook, that it makes an impact in your family, in your life. And that's our highest hope. And that's what the mission that we're on is, to serve the world in that way. Serving the world. This has been so much fun, Mike. Mike, thank you for coming on the show. Real Estate Rockstars, thanks for listening. Thanks, buddy. All right, Real Estate Rockstars. This is Aaron Muchastegui jumping in again to thank you for listening to the show. Hopefully you guys loved listening to that one. And I want to make sure that you know about all of the extra resources that we have. And also, we need your help. They say podcasts are free. You get to listen to podcasts for free. But what is the cost of that podcast? I would say if I could beg you to pay anything for that podcast, I would say the cost of the podcast is going and giving a review. So whether you download it on Google or Apple or YouTube or anywhere else, please go give us a review. Say what you liked, what you didn't like. It helps us get better guests. The more reviews, the higher we get in the rankings. Right now, we are the biggest podcast out there for real estate agents, and we want to keep that spot because we know there's lots of podcasts out there. So go give us a review. Also, be sure to go to hibandigital.com. If you liked any of the resources that those real estate agents talked about, we've got a huge video vault of those resources for free.
Everybody that comes on the podcast that we interview, they give us something that helps them get their deals or helps them work with their clients. And we put that in the toolbox in our vault for you. So go to hibandigital.com and you can get it. If you're looking for real estate education, go to rebusuniversity.com. We have all sorts of courses in there to help agents succeed in real estate. How to get the listing, how to negotiate deals, how to become an investor, all sorts of different stuff. rebusuniversity.com. And if you want to chat with me, go find me on Instagram. And if you come find me on Instagram, you can send me messages. Tell me what you want to hear. Tell me what you liked, what you didn't like. We try to put a bunch of content out there too. You can find me in 2 different places. It's at rerockstars.com for our Real Estate Rockstars page, or at aaronamuchastegui.com for my personal Instagram page, where I can chat with you about all sorts of different things. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again soon.